Hey everyone, I'm Airwingmarine. Welcome back to the channel, my next Escape from Tarkov video. Today we're going to talk about the Bitcoin farm and the often eternal question each wipe. Is it worth it? Is it not worth it? Should I build it? How many cards should I put in there? We're going to dive into all those details. I did a ton of math, ran a couple of different variables. That way you can make the decision for yourself on if it's right for you or not, and if you want to make that huge investment that it takes to get a Bitcoin farm up and running. So let's not waste any more time and get right into it. Okay, so we're going to bring up a ton of graphs here. We're going to not really do any gameplay footage. Let me know in the comments down below if you guys like the gameplay footage, if you like graphs. You know, we're kind of feeling out new things for styles of video like this. But anyways, the question, is it worth it or not? It greatly depends on how much you play. You know, are you a once a day kind of guy? Are you a twice a week kind of guy? Are you somebody like me that plays multiple hours every day? All of those to figure into this. So what I want to do is give you enough information so that you can make the decision for yourself based on your situation. And a lot of things are going to change in here that I can't predict and might make this go bad. Prices might get more expensive on components. They might get way cheaper. There might be a fuel shortage, a change in Bitcoin in real life, and it tanks the price in the game. You know, any of these number of things are not predictable, so I don't take those into account. So with that out of the way, let's just talk about some of the base numbers here. These are the numbers I used to crunch everything, if you will. And these are the baseline numbers for all of the decisions that I'm going to make. And right now, I'm running graphics cards at 325K. You can get them quite a bit cheaper. I filled my farm with them anywhere from 150 to 280K in the last couple of days. I've got 2 found and rate in here as well. I also assumed a Bitcoin at 215,000 rubles. It's a little bit below that right now, but it's been above it in the last week. And who knows where it's going to go. So I just picked a round number, 215K, kind of where the average is, and that's what I went with. And then lastly, I did 100K on fuel, metal fuel cans. I didn't use blue cans. The cost of those is about twice as much for the same unit of fuel, if you will, but there's more utility because you can turn them into mag boxes, things like that. But I didn't want to get into that way into the weeds with numbers, so I just stuck with metal fuel cans. And right now they're selling for anywhere from 85 to 90K. So I bumped her up to 100 to cover this for another week or so on these numbers. And that's just kind of where we'll go from there. And lastly, the time to craft is 40.28 hours, or 40 hours, 16 minutes and 40 seconds for one card. You can go over to the wiki. They've got their charts and everything upgraded. So it's 40.28 hours for one graphics card and 13.34 hours for 50 graphics cards. That's how the math works out. All of these numbers also assume that you don't miss any coins. So like if, for example, if you let your Bitcoin farm get to 3, it won't make another Bitcoin. It just stops. You're burning fuel, everything else, but it won't make any more. So you got to collect your Bitcoin, you know, for example, with one card, 30 hours, you know, every 90 hours, essentially, you got to come in and collect once every 90 hours at least. And then as you get up into the higher ones, you know, it's going to be once a day at a minimum. Also, fuel costs are included in all calculations, all of them. So from here on out, unless I specifically say otherwise, these numbers include the cost of fuel at 100K. And then before we get to the really juicy stuff, one last thing, I'll put my spreadsheet up on Google Docs. I'll put a link down in the description. You can go play around in there. You can see if I made any mistakes. You can tweak numbers how you want it, and it'll spit out all sorts of information and make you happy as a pig in shit. So feel free to have fun with that. Please don't request access because that just blows my email up. Just save a copy and then you can do whatever you want with it. So a level 1 farm, in order to get that built, you're going to be about 1.2 million to get that completely built. All the components, everything stuffed into there. And then one card on top of that, so another, 320K. That is going to take you 53 days to break even. So at 53 days, the money it's generated will have paid for all the costs. Then each month after that, so say it's not 30 days exactly, but it's like 730 hours or something like that, you will make 865,000 rubles each month. Not a lot, but it's just generating free money and it's paying for your fuel. Now, if you bump that to 10 cards on your level 1 farm, all of the costs included, you now are at 58 days to break even. That is the cost to build it and the cost of all 10 cards. This will also net you 2.3 million every month after that date, after that break even point. All right, with all that considered, let's move on to the level 2 farm. This is going to cost you about another 1.2, a little bit more, about 1.2 million on top of everything you've already spent to get this built. Then if you throw one card in there, just one card, you go to 11 cards. You're going to take 73 days to break even. And then after that, you generate 2.5 million rubles per month. And what this shows, and you'll see it when we go to the level 3, is if you are going to upgrade, if you're going to make that leap from the level 1 to level 2, you just as well make sure you can throw as many cards as you can in there, because in order for it to make sense, you really need to go to that next level. That's 25 cards is really what you need to do. The more the merrier, but you don't want to do level 2 and then put like 1 or 2 more cards instead of 12. Just doesn't make sense. You're better off just staying at 10 cards at that point. So let's say you do go to 25 cards. Now you're at 68 days to break even. And this is going to net you 4.7 million each month after that. So now we're really starting to get into some real money. You know, you're talking several $100,000 a day, which you can beat that in your hideout other places, but you don't have to do any work for this. And again, this is including all fuel costs. So it pays for your fuel in your hideout running 24 hours a day and generates this extra money. So finally, we make this level 3 farm jump, and this includes upgrading to solar power, obviously, because you have to build the solar power to build this. I don't include the costs of the other modules like Intel to build the Bitcoin farm, because those aren't only built for the Bitcoin farm. Right now, the only reason I can see for you to build a solar power is to, you know, get a level 3 farm. There's no real any other reason to build it. The gas savings just doesn't make sense. So all of those costs, you know, it's like 13 or 14 million, whatever it is, to get the solar power plus the Bitcoin farm. All of those sunk in to a level 3 farm, and you go to 26 cards. You just throw 1 card in there at that point. It now takes you 159 days to break even. So you're almost half a year. So it's basically the rest of the wipe, assuming it takes you a couple of weeks from here to get to there and fill it up. So at 26 cards, you're 159 days to break even. And then it's going to net you 6.4 million rubles each month after that break even. Now, the big number, if you go all the way to 50 cards, all your costs included in this, you're 115 days to break even. So you're just shy of 3 months. You're almost at 3 months to break even. And after that, you're going to be generating 10.2 million rubles per month going on. And again, this is all assuming Bitcoin at 220,000, fuel at 100,000. Stuff changes. I understand it. I had to pick a number somewhere. So you can see how much this matters going on the bottom end versus the top end of each level 1, level 2, level 3 Bitcoin. If you're going to go to that next level, you really need to fill it up. So let's run a couple of thought experiments here, if you will, and talk about what happens, you know, what ifs, ands, ors, or buts, and kind of cover some of the questions I got last time I did one of these videos in last wipe. And with so many variables, I don't want to really tweak 2 of them at a time, because you get crazy shit and it gets really complicated to talk about in this video. It'd be an hour long, and none of you are going to watch an hour long video. So we'll tweak 1 of them at a time, kind of give you some thresholds to look at. And if things get really crazy, maybe I just do another video for everybody down the road. So the first one I want to do is fuel, right? Because I think this is going to be the first one people freak out about. Fuel isn't going to be at 80, 90, 100K for very much longer. As more and more people get to the flea market and start buying fuel and running their hideouts and selling shit, fuel is just going to go up. And you're probably going to get to that 157K mark eventually. That's where I'm going to lock it off at, because if you're going to be worried about fuel at 220 or 230 or 240, because that's what the market is, and you're not getting your Jaeger to level 3 to unlock fuel, that's on you. That's not part of this equation. So 157K fuel, everything kind of starts to fall apart here on the lower end of the farm. So your farm doesn't even break even with fuel costs until you get about 6 or 7 cards, assuming you have a level 1 Bitcoin farm. So 6 or 7 cards, that's right where basically the farm pays for the fuel. You don't make any money, but you don't lose any more. And from what I can see, it doesn't really make sense. So like, let's say a month from now, so let's say into August or even September, if fuel's at 157K, the farm isn't going to make sense until you get into that 20 or 25K card range, because it's just not going to pay itself off before the end of the wipe. And on the other side of this, on the other variable, you see these same kind of numbers, if you will, with making sense versus not making sense at about 135,000 ruble value on Bitcoin. So if Bitcoin falls to 135,000, that's kind of the same point with where we're at now. The graphics cards, you never really go, it doesn't make you go negative, right? You're always going to make money with graphics cards. It doesn't matter what price they get at. What matters there is how long it takes to break even. Now, with Bitcoin at 210, 220K, you're about 650, 700 is about as far as you want to go on paying for graphics cards ever, because beyond that, they're just not going to pay for themselves. And I guess another question I get asked a lot is, where do I see graphic cards going to in price? From what it looks like and from what it's done in the past, and there's so many things that can affect this, like how many players are playing, you know, what stage of the wipe it's in, all of this stuff affects it. But you see somewhere between 1.5 and 2.5 the value of Bitcoin. So if you see Bitcoin go to 300,000, the top of the graphics cards are going to be like, you know, 600, maybe 750, 800,000 rubles. That's kind of where I think the top of it's going to be right now. Maybe 500,000-600,000, just because you'll go above that for a day or 2 or 3 as you get kind of a FOMO and prices are going up and people are just buying because they're panicking, but very quickly supply and demand will kick in and that price will start coming back down again. Whether because BSG tinkers with it, because Bitcoin tanks, or even if it's stable, every wipe you hit a point where everybody's done buying graphics cards and doesn't need them anymore, and very quickly graphics cards start to get cheaper. And it did it 2 wipes ago, and Bitcoin was actually going up in price and getting more valuable, and you saw graphics cards go in the other direction because everybody had all their graphics cards. So just keep that in mind. When you start seeing the prices get really high on graphics cards, they are going to turn around and come back at some point. So what does this all get you? It's kind of like interest in a bank account. That's kind of how I look at it, right? So let's say you've got 50 million rubles in your stash. Those 50 million rubles don't do anything until you spend them, until you use them. They just sit there day after day, 50 million rubles. If you take those rubles and let's say you dump the 35 mil or whatever it is to get your Bitcoin farm all the way to the top, yeah, now you're at 15 million rubles, but you're generating income. So my advice is buy extra cards when you have some extra cash. That's what I do. I'm down to about 1 million rubles now because I just got done buying up a bunch of cards. So, just each day buy another card, and they're going to start to get more expensive, guys. We've already seen the chart. It's already picked up. They're going to probably climb, I don't know, maybe 5 to 10,000 rubles every day for a pretty steady while. They'll do that for a week or two on just a steady climb as more and more people start buying them and unlocking their Bitcoin farms. And, this video might make a bunch of people go buy out and they might go to 400K. Who knows? But this kind of brings up an important thing. The only reason I took fuel into account here is because of how much feedback I got from the community last time. You guys really cared about that fuel number. I personally don't. I don't look at fuel in the Bitcoin farm myself. And the reason is because I craft a lot. And I just consider fuel a sunk cost in all of my crafting stuff. I make so much money over there. If you do 1 craft a day in each module, like if you just go around and craft one thing each day and you craft the most valuable thing, you'll make over 250,000 rubles a day in your hideout just by crafting one thing in each module. And if you have level 3, that starts pushing 280 or even 300. And if you get good at buying materials, you can get 320, 330 out of your hideout each day just by crafting once. And it takes 3 to 5 minutes to do. It's not a ton of work. And if you get into crafting a ton of stuff, like let's say you're cycling crafts constantly and you're leveling up your hideout and your crafting skills and you're really making money doing that, it depends on how much you play, but you're talking hundreds of thousands of rubles an hour that you can make, 120, 130, 150, depending on how good you are at buying your components, how much you can manipulate the market, some of the stuff we talk about in our other videos. So just keep that in mind. If you're crafting, there is no fuel cost. And if you take the fuel cost out of the Bitcoin farm, it's just basically broken. The full level 3 Bitcoin farm will pay for itself in about 78 days, give or take. And then it pays you 12 million a month after that. And that's just pure profit because you're paying for your fuel somewhere else. So that's about 400K a day. And we can get into the numbers and talk about level 1 and 2s, but if you're looking at it that way, like I am, I'm going to be rushing to get my farm built to level 3 and get it maxed out because that plays into one of the risks with BSG change and stuff later down the road. And some other things to keep in mind with this, as you get down the road, if you've got found and raid graphics cards, like right now, let's say you get a graphics card out of raid, you could sell it now for 300K or you put it in your farm. And as you get like let's say you die and you got them in a secure container. I know Church will be super happy because I'm talking about secure containers, but you get you get one out with your secure container non-found in raid, you can put that in your farm and take a found in raid one out and sell that. So if you get to 50, and this happened to me last wipe, I started getting cards out of raid, non-found in raid, and I would stick one in, that non-found in raid in, pull a found in raid out, and boom, I got 1.2 million. And that card's been making me Bitcoin for months now. So not only is it like you're making interest on the card you have, you get to sell it for a bigger price than when you found it. So it's not just sitting in your hideout not doing anything, it's generating money for you. So keep that in mind. They go into your farm, they can come back out found in raid just as well. Another one is hideout management is pretty big in this equation. Maxed hideout management, I believe, gives you 25% reduction in fuel, how much fuel you're burned. So you're going to cut another quarter of your fuel cost out of all of this. Whichever way you look at it, that's just that much more money you make. And it gives you 5 slots in the Bitcoin farm once you get to level 51. That is huge because now at level 51, let's say you're 13 hours for a coin, you can go over 2 days and not ever collect a coin and never run out. You've got 5 coins in there you can collect. So that helps out with a lot of ways when people don't want to play every day. So in summary, I guess it boils down to what should you do? I don't want to tell you that. I don't want to tell you to go do something and then BSG changes shit next week. I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. I play almost every day. So I'm going to fill my farm up as fast as I can. I'm going to focus on generating money by running loot runs and taking stuff out, selling that, and then turning that into graphics cards and parts for the Bitcoin farm. And what I would say is do what you can afford. If you have 10 million rubles sitting in your hideout right now in your stash and you're not doing anything with them, take 5 and get your Bitcoin farm all the way to level 1 and get 10 cards in it. You're going to be pretty okay doing that. You're probably not going to lose any money. And it just pays off in the long run for, you know, what you're going to do for you. Now there's issues on this stuff. You know, this could get nerfed. That's all they've done. I don't know that they have done anything backwards with Bitcoin in the last 6 months. Every change they've made to the Bitcoin farm has been a nerf in some way or another, whether they're making modules more expensive or they're decreasing the value of Bitcoin. So that could happen. And again, that changes everything. If they do that, it just runs all these numbers out even longer. And then there's this rumor of, I don't know if it's a rumor or if it's just community talk, card durability. If they introduce card durability, oh my God, that changes everything. Like it gives me a headache of even thinking what I'm going to do to my spreadsheet if you have to take account into card durability. If no fun. So there's a lot of stuff in here that can really, really change that. So just keep that in mind. I hope that this was good. I hope it didn't drag on too long. And I hope you guys got the information you want out of it. Don't hesitate to ask questions down in the comments below. I'm pretty good about getting through comments. Sometimes I miss replies to my comments just because of the way YouTube's structured. But I try to keep you guys up to date and answer your questions and get you the information you want to know. So good luck in your graphics card hunt. Hopefully they don't get too expensive on us here real quick. All right, well, that wraps up the video, guys. I appreciate you watching. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. It helps out on the YouTube algorithm. We have a Discord. We fill up with, there's lots of people in there willing to ask questions, help out. We've got a key channel for people that need to get doors unlocked or looking to group up and do specific tasks. And it's filling up with people that just love Tarkov. So don't hesitate to come by, join the group, and be part of the hangar. A little bit more housekeeping. I have a Patreon. It's an alternative for folks that want to support the channel. The higher tiers have some bonuses, like they get to see videos like this early, as well as I post in there when I'm seeing things going on in the economy. I'll post things in there for them, or the Discord that say, hey, you know, look out for these items and stuff like that, kind of on a daily basis, just so that you can do it. I've got the list here of all the folks that are doing it, the credits, if you will, guys that are putting that extra mile in to help us pay for the editors and pay for the content and Tarkov market and all the stuff that we use, the expenses we have to generate these videos. But lastly, I just want to say thank you for supporting us on YouTube. If that's all you're doing, that's plenty enough. Thank you guys for watching the videos, liking, subscribing, chatting. All of that means a bunch to me, and I greatly appreciate it. I wish you the best of luck, and we'll see you in Tarkov.